Folks, here we are again. Welcome to Rise to Everything. It's going to be a special show today. We're going to get into some serious topics, okay? And the reason for that is because it's all fun and games when it comes to sports and the other rumor stuff. But there's also a time when you need to talk about some serious issues. So let's start by putting our heads down and thanking God for another day. Thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for another day to breathe. Thank you for another beautiful day. Thank you for our family. God, I pray for my sister. I have a sister right now. She's having some back issues. I pray for her to heal. I have some issues myself. I pray for your healedness as well, to get healed as well. So I pray for all of us to get better, and I pray for those that need that prayer as well. So, folks, wanted to take the time to say thank you, God, for being here for another segment of Rise to Everything. My name is Arthur. I am the host of Rise to Everything, and we're going to go over some topics first before we get into. We have a special guest this week. His name is Tyler Robertson, certified life coach. So as soon as I go over my stuff, I will bring him right in, and he's going to take the mic from me from that point. So before we get there, let's go back to the tariffs, right? This week, Donald Trump, first he gave that whole list of how much he was going to be charging people in the whole 9 yards. And then it turned out to be that now what he's doing is he's going to do 10% on tariffs to the Chinese, and they're going back and forth. So everything has been hold for 90 days. So we don't know what's going on with the tariffs. It's just a crazy thing that's going on in sports. In politics. And at this point, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update regarding that. So that continues to get a little crazy. So let's jump into sports right now. You guys already know I'm a Miami Heat fan. I got to talk about my Heat. The Miami Heat are in the play-in. Okay, they will be playing against the Chicago Bulls on April 16 on ESPN. The loser goes home, all right? Or they'll play for the next game. So practically, here we are in the same situation we were, I think, last year, the year before. So now we're going to have to play harder to be able to get even to the playoff spot, to get that playing spot. So the fact that we were looking forward to a game next week, hopefully we can pull it off. We have to go to Chicago and to be able to pull this game off. And that's going to be extremely, extremely tough. Okay? So those are one of the things that, I wanted to bring up. I also wanted to put out there League Busters, one of our sponsors that we always want to put out there. I wanted to get everything out of the way when it comes to the sponsors. If you need a new roof, feel free to call 561-324-1496. Call League Busters Roofing, 561-324-1496. League Busters Roofing, they do tile, metal, shingles. They're specialized and also South Florida. They're the number one roofer in South Florida. They're in Fort Pierce. That's where they're at. But they are the neighborhood roofer. If you need any needs, please call that number, and they're available. And when it comes to tree services, you can call Jeremy. Also, let me take this off here because I have some captures in here. Let me take that off. I'm sorry about that. So Jeremy Tree Services, you can call them at 772-284-1200. Jeremy's Tree Services. They're from Port St. Lucie, and they are very great. I've used them myself. Great service, great customer service. If you need those needs, feel free to call them, and they'll take care of you as well. And folks, like always, I'm always asking everybody to, if you're tuning in into YouTube right now, please subscribe my channel to me to continue to help people, to send a message out, talk about sports and our day-to-day regular stuff, okay? So now that we got that all out of the way, like I said, this week, I do have a special guest, Taylor Robertson, certified life coach. I'm excited to bring him in. I'm going to bring him in there. And if you got any questions, feel free to come in. But I'm bringing him right now. All right, so give me a second here. I'm going to go reach out to him. So, okay, so we're having a little bit of problems with the audio. I think I got him. Oh, there you go, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm here.
I should have gave you a warning up, but
no, it's okay.
It's all good. So we're live here on YouTube and Facebook Live. I already gave people their sample of sports, what was going on, and the tariffs got that all the way. But now back to serious business, serious life, and things that are going on in life. And I wanted to bring you in because you specialize in this field. I'm a caring person. I like to give people some help and some direction, and that's why I started this podcast. That was my mission, and to bring somebody like you, I'm extremely happy for you to be here, and welcome to Rise to Everything.
Thank you.
So, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I can definitely let you guys know a little bit about myself. I'm a combat veteran, former alcoholic, and I've spent a lifetime before this trying to battle my demons and everything. And I've had my fair share of trauma and everything like that. But I'm coming to you today as a person that has started a recovery journey and understands that this is a continuous thing that I got to continue to do. But I have gotten to a point now where I can start, helping others in trauma recovery and addiction recovery. So being a combat veteran and a recovered alcoholic is, and somebody that's built a solid foundation and a relationship with himself and with a higher power. So that's a bit about me.
I like the higher power part of it, and everything goes through. See, we all have similar issues that we got into our lives. Either went through a marriage that didn't work out, or and you have a family for 16 years, and then all of a sudden things get broken down, and then you get into a certain depression or to go through some stuff, and then you go on the wrong path, and then you decide that, wait a second, I got to pause for a minute, and I have to really look at life, the value of life, right? The beauty of life, that there is another part of it. And like I said, I probably didn't go to similar things, but you do get into some type of abuse to the fact that you start drinking or whatever the deal is. And then you get on track, you get off track, you get on track until, and my luck is that I was able to find the love of my life, my soulmate, and to be able to get my life. And she helped me a lot to get refocused, and some good supporting friends as well. And my family are the ones that I give credit to as well for getting things in track. So, my background is, everybody always told me when I saw my tattoo in my arm about Rise, right? Is because I felt like one time in my life I was in the bottom of everything, and I'm pretty sure you've been there. You know how that feels to be right in the rock bottom, and I felt that it was time to rise to everything that was thrown at me. So it kind of stuck with me as that part of my model, and it reminds me every day that I gotta continue. You know what I'm saying? To better myself. So I appreciate you sharing that part, telling you a little about yourself, because there's a lot of people out there that have similar backgrounds, and they're still struggling with demons, or they're still struggling with a lot of other addictions and stuff. And there's other positive ways of going about their lives. So what was I going to touch here? Here we go. Okay, so right now I'm going to hand the mic to you, man, because we're going to talk about mental health, anxiety, depression. So most of the people that I've talked to, and which is the most popular thing that happens, what I've seen is anxiety and depression. It's one of the big ones. So I want to see, what's your opinion about, how do we jump off of that one?
Definitely, and anxiety and depression, those are two of the biggest emotional states that really plague society today, And what was said to me a long time ago was that anxiety was when I'm constantly stuck in the future, and depression is when I'm constantly stuck in the past. And I could lose myself in ruminating about past decisions, wallowing in regret, and letting my past still define my future, right? And that can be depressing. That can be debilitating. I suffered from extreme debilitating anxiety with PTSD and drinking and everything like that. There was mornings where I couldn't get out of bed. I'd be curled up in bed, and just the overpowering weight of this anxiety that would take me over. I would be calling into work, and it got really, really bad. And so anxiety, can be said about worrying about the future, worrying about what's going to happen, and that comes with this sort of control, right? Like this worry about the outcomes of things, which causes the anxiety, right? It's a matter of control, and I have no control over the future. I have no control over the past. The only thing I can control, is within my arm's length around me in the present moment. And that was a big lesson that I had to learn, was learning to become mindful and learning to become present in the moment that I'm in order to allow that peace of mind to settle in. But when it comes to anxiety, man, like, and any kind of emotion or mental state that dysregulates my equilibrium, right? So we have an equilibrium, and we have high functions and low functions, and you can see this on oscillating frequencies and everything. But what happens is that when we become accustomed to these rhythms, right, these anxiety wavelengths, or these depression wavelengths, our brain is wiring itself, right, as this happens. And as human beings, we're constantly searching and finding things that are going to reinforce our core belief systems. And if we truly believe that we're depressed for whatever reason, we're going to continuously reinforce that. We're going to find things to reinforce that belief system. Same thing with anxiety, same thing with anger, same thing with any other aspect of life, and it can go either way. It can go in a negative fashion, or it can go into a positive fashion. And where I come from today, and where I'm coming to you and your audience, is I'm coming from a place where I have moved and shifted from those negative thought patterns into positive thought patterns. And I used to be a divorcee. I have two kids, and was married twice. I'd found my rock bottom, right?
Mhm.
And found myself locked up in a couple of mental wards with the VA, and just a whole mess of stuff that brought me down to the point where I could no longer keep going on, right? But I couldn't keep living the way I was living, but I had no clue which way to go. I didn't know, I had
Makes
no way
sense.
out, right? Until finally, push came to shove, and I was at a point in my life where I was malleable, I was ready, and I was ready to chase change, and I was ready to evolve, is what it was. And I can segue that into my own mental health and trauma and addiction healing platform, which is called Evolve Anyways. That's something that I was asked to develop by some professors. And but as far as anxiety and stuff like that goes, that it really stems from our perception of the world, right? Because my thoughts create my emotions, and my emotions make me feel, which causes a physiological response. Anxiety is a physiological response to a thought, right? And if we can learn to identify and become aware of these thoughts or these triggers or this external stimulation that causes a trigger, that causes a thought, that causes an internal reaction, which would be the anxiety, then we can step away from that, and we can stop subjectively living in that moment, and we can objectively have a viewpoint of it. And the example I like to use with clients is it's like Play-Doh, right? Our emotions are the Play-Doh. The can that it comes in is like the situation, and the lid is the power that we have over that. And we have the power to remove the lid, take the emotions out of the situation, play with them, mold them around, and we can turn it into a star. We can turn it into a circle. We can turn it into whatever we want. We can turn it into a turd if we want, right? So,
Yeah.
it just depends on what we want to do with that emotional state given that situation. And things that I like to tell clients is that we are the ones with the power to change. We are the ones with the power to evolve. When we choose to do so, we can. There is nothing holding us back but ourselves. And that is something that I've come to realize, that I was my biggest enemy. I was my own anxiety. I was my own depression. I was my own mental health issues. There's a lot of mental health issues out there that I will recognize that are manageable with medication, but there's also um, mental health issues out there that are manageable with different kinds of therapy, right? That can be done in tandem with medication in order to get you to a certain neuroplastic state in order to make real changes. And I don't know if a lot of you out there know what neuroplasticity is, but that's the brain's ability to separate neurons and reattach in different neuronal pathways, and that's what we call rewiring your brain. It can be done, and it is a process that I've done and still continue to do these days, and I practice that in several different instances in my life. I can do the things that I want to do. I can choose to become who I want to become these days. Um, but that's all based on what boils down to perception, right? When we have that awareness of what's going on in our lives, and we can take that, like you said earlier, we can pause and we can analyze what's going on in here. We can take that pause to do some introspection and figure out what's going on inside. And then we can take that out and we can start to objectively look at that, and we can objectively manipulate that, right? It's not that it's not okay to feel what you're feeling, but the end goal is to be able to face that same situation again and not have it knock you off your emotional equilibrium as much as it did before.
There's been cases that I've seen, like I've had people literally come up to me and say, my anxiety is killing me, or I believe I have anxiety. Um, and what it is they get into these situations, right? Like a relationship. They go out with a person and things don't work out. And that person makes them feel very small, right? They went on a date and or whatever the deal is. And I've had people come up to me with certain issues talking about, why did this person treat me that way, right? Why did this person make me feel this small? So from that one experience, they go from a sky high that they were feeling good about because the person made them feel, like an example, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. You're the nicest person I've ever seen. And then once that person took control of part of their life that was pure, or part of that was theirs, that person goes from a high level and drops all the way to the bottom, and their self-esteem is completely shot. And the first thing they say is, oh my God, my anxieties are killing me. Do you believe that that falls under an anxiety issue or a depression issue, based on how she's feeling, based on the whole experience that she's having? Because
Yeah.
they use that as they label it, like, oh, I don't want to eat, I don't want to, the person feels like they're really down, and you see the change of the person, especially if you see them on a day-to-day basis at work or whatever it is. You see them declining, right?
Mm-hmm.
From being happy all the time or eating less, losing weight. When a person falls into that area, right, that they feel like that their values is no longer there. How do you feel, about that whole issue?
So I would say that you can fluctuate. Emotion is fluid, and you can fluctuate in between depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
From the situation that you were explaining, I would say that person probably is suffering from depression, with instances of anxiety, right?
Mhm.
Instances of anxiety could stem from that want to change, right? That need to change from inside, that need for the situation to change, that need for that person to change. But the fact of the matter is, right, is that number one, that person treating them that way wasn't a reflection of the person you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
That's a reflection of them. When somebody is lashing out and is acting angry towards you, that's often not a representation of your own character, but something internally going on with them. So I would let your audience know that, most of the time when somebody's lashing out and they're angry, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them, right? And another thing is that when you allow yourself to fall into those types of situations and you allow yourself to fall into those types of depression, what I was hearing as you were talking was I was hearing a hint of codependency, and I was hearing a hint of giving that power over, right? Because if I'm going to allow you to make me feel small, that I have handed you the majority of the power in this situation, right? And any situation that you find yourself in, any relationship, whether it be romantic, professional, friendly, whatever kind of relationship you find yourself in, you're going to have a power dynamic. And most of the time people like to fantasize that it's always going to be 50-50, but it rarely ever is exactly equal. you know sometimes you could find yourself in a situation where both people are only holding 1%, and there's still 98% out there to up for grabs. And then you can find yourself in like a 95% to 5% power distribution, which you often find whenever you try to figure out what's for dinner, right? Like,
Exactly.
so like, trying to figure out who has the power dynamic in that situation. Whenever
Yeah.
the one of you raises the question, well, what do you want for dinner tonight? And then it's like, oh, I don't want that power. You take it. What do you want?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
but
Especially when you go out on a date, say you want to eat this, and it's funny
yeah,
sometimes. It's funny that you said that because sometimes you go to dinner and you say you go there, and a lot of us get like our significant other will say, "That's okay, it's okay, okay." It's always okay. You hoping one day will be like, "Okay, not here, let's go here." You know what I mean? To change
yeah,
it around.
yeah,
So you kind of buy into it, right? You buy into the whole concept of it, and it just seems to be easier. But sometimes it would be good to change that channel. And the other thing that I wanted to also ask you or bring up is that a lot of people brought to me as well as for questions is um, it is tough also when a person has been in any type of relationship, either a relationship or friendship, and they've lost a person in their lives. All right. That brings down a lot of the confidence of life, especially if that person meant a lot to you, whatever the deal is. And you got to move on. And that's not an easy thing to do. And not a lot of people could just, go ahead and do that, especially if you felt that person was. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that take advantage of that. And when you're on your low lows, you know what I mean? And they take advantage of that. So, do you got any advice for the audience and people that have asked me, you know, how do they build their self-esteem? You know what I mean? From all that situation. I know in the beginning you said something about it all starts, of course, with yourself. You create your anxiety, you create your depression, but can the person create their own self-esteem, to get out of that situation? What would you recommend?
so number one, really, if you want to build self-esteem, you do esteemable acts, however big, however small. uh, Esteem is a subjective point of view, right? So we're back down to perception. um, you do those things that are going to make you feel better about yourself. Those are esteemable acts, right? You have to be willing and ready to accept self-esteem, right? You have to feel like you're worthy of self-esteem, and that sometimes in the grief cycle can be extremely difficult. Like you said, when you lose somebody that's extremely important to you, when you're in a romantic relationship with them, whether that be a boyfriend, a fiance, a husband, a wife, a girlfriend, and at whatever capacity, when you have
Mhm.
that kind of bond with somebody, and they're taken from you, in short time, that can be extremely difficult to deal with. And with and those individuals need to make sure that they go through the grief process. you know they need they and a lot of people, they'll lose somebody, and they get stuck in the denial phase, or they get stuck in the anger phase, or they get stuck in one of the 5 stages of grief. And it's very important for individuals to go through that grieving process before trying to enter back into the dating scene, right? Because how many times, too often, I'll tell you, but too often do we see individuals reaching out to the dating world, or reaching out to other individuals to develop a relationship, a romantic relationship, in order to meet unknown needs that they have within themselves, right? And so now at that point, if take myself for example, if that was me in that situation, and I'm reaching out to, other to women, and trying to fill some void in my heart and in my soul from losing a spouse or losing a partner, that's not only not fair to me, that's not fair to them.
Correct.
Because I'm at that point, I'm not entering into a relationship, I'm using them. And to avoid that, it's like we need to take that time. A lot of people don't understand that their time is precious. Time with yourself is even more so. Developing a relationship with yourself before developing a relationship with another human being is very much priority, and that needs to be done. Now, on the other side of that, if you're the person that enters into a relationship with the person that is in a grieving cycle, it's very important that you understand what you are stepping into. You need to understand the situation and the dynamic that you're stepping into. And so with that, it's if you have an understanding, you need to be patient, compassionate, understanding, and allow them the time and the space that they need for the grieving process. Like when next, if you're in a relationship, it's like you're there for commitment. And I think a lot of people have forgotten what commitment means, right? Initially when I enter into a relationship, it's like, hey, this is fun, this is great, da 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 da, and you have those endorphins, and those hormones are going, and they're running, and it's like we're just clicking, we're having great time. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now all that's calmed down. Now it's time to understand and realize that, hey, we're both human individuals, and we both have stuff from our past that we're working on healing. Right. And if you can identify that, and you can understand that that person has a lot to heal, just like you do, then you can have this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? You can have this kind of tandem dance.
Yeah. Back and
And
forth.
yeah, and being able to give each other the time and the space necessary to do what they need to do, and you can come back to each other. That's commitment, right? And that's what you're signing up for when you enter into a relationship with somebody in the grieving stage, so it's an importance on both parties in that situation.
Yeah. And also on the mind, the body, and we talked about that. I was going to ask you, a lot of people um, get into depression based on their weight, right? That's a big one too, like their weight, and try to battle that through diets and all this craziness. What's your opinion about that? Of people, of course, that falls under self-esteem as well. People
Mhm.
feel that if they're heavy, they have very low esteem of themselves. And my opinion, that shouldn't be nothing with that. This is just a separate issue, because a person is a person, right? Who they are. The other issues like weight and all that goes back to working on yourself to do that. So, what's your opinion about the people that have actually that I've seen that get depressed based on their weight, and what's your opinion about that whole thing, the weight loss thing and the depression? Because that's another biggie too.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I would enter in that conversation with what's your ideal vision of yourself, and what are you doing to achieve that? Right now, if you're depressed because of your weight, depression, you can lose weight, you can gain weight. It can go either or. You know, a lot of it comes down to what is the person doing about it? We talked about self-esteem earlier, right? How do you build self-esteem? You do esteemable acts. How do you battle depression over weight? Well, what are you doing to lose the weight or gain the weight that you want? And it boils down to willpower. One of the biggest hurdles that we encounter in mental health is our own minds, right? We have this critical mind, this critical parent that keeps nagging, saying, you know what, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to lose the weight, so just keep eating. Just go ahead and eat those feelings away. You'll feel better. And it's the same thing. You could look at overeating or undereating the same as an addiction, right? There's a certain need that's not being met, and so we have this critical parent in our minds. With people often equivalent that to the angel and the devil on your shoulders. The angel's like, hey, let's get up, let's get active, let's go for a walk, let's go to the beach, let's go hiking, let's go to the gym, let's do something that's going to get us moving and get us going. We know naturally that's what we need to do in order to achieve what we want to achieve. But that little devil over here is like, nah, you don't need to. It's okay to just sit in your depression. Just sit there. Eat whatever it is that you want to eat. Go ahead and overload on sodas and candy and everything. It doesn't matter. None of it matters anyways. And da 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 da. But what really matters is your own quality of life. Like if you're depressed because of your weight and you're not doing anything to change that, then you're stuck in this loop. You're in this loop of eating, gaining weight, getting depressed, eating because you're depressed, gaining weight, da 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 da, over and over and over again. And then there's little points in there, right, that you can break out of that loop. There's small little points in there that you can break out of that cycle, and you can get to the gym. You can start doing these activities. You can sign up for whatever, pickleball or whatever it is that you want to do. There's these little breaks in those loops that you can get out. But how do you do that if you're not aware of it, right? So the first key to that is becoming aware of it. Hey, I have an issue. I have a behavior. I have something about myself that I want to change and I want to make better. Okay, that brings you to a certain level of awareness. Next, you have to take action, right? So there's a thought. Then after a thought, there's an action. After that action, it starts to progress, and you start to achieve your goals little by little. But, one small step a day is going to get you a lot further than any big step you could ever take. So you start picking up, you start a new routine, you start going to the gym. Even if it's just going to the gym, you could go to the gym and park in the parking lot for the first 2 weeks, right? You're not going to lose any weight, but what you're doing is
you have a routine.
Yeah, what you're doing is you're building a routine. You're rewiring your brain to go to the gym at a certain point in time. And then, you know what? You get out and you go sign up for the gym that you've been sitting in the parking lot for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's these little baby steps that really accumulate to the goal that you want to get to. I remember, I used to think of these great and lofty goals that I wanted to achieve back in the day. And they were great ideas. They were great thoughts to have. Yeah. But without action, I never took any action towards that. Right. And so I stayed in the loop. And I just kept going round and round and round and round and round and wondering why I never made any progress, until one day I'd had enough. And that was part of my rock bottom. And I was like, it's time to change. It's time to put thought to action and action to achievement. And that's what I started to do. I'm a certified life coach today. I've got several other certifications under my name, but I'm not done. I'm in school getting traditionally trained to be a psychologist. I should be moving into my doctorate for a dual doctorate in clinical psychology and cognitive neuroscience. So I have a very good base knowledge of what happens physiologically, socioeconomically,
Yeah.
and stuff like that when it comes to psychology. And it's just what I have found in my studies and in my own experience is that a lot of this boils down to my own perception of the world, my own perception of me, my internal and external conflict with anything and everything. And now the thing is that conflict can be good conflict or it can be bad conflict depending on how I wish to see it. Good conflict would be, hey, I want to get a degree in psychology, right? That's good conflict to have.
Yeah.
That gives me a goal, but the conflict is I don't have it yet. How do I get there? Or the bad conflict could be, being angry and wanting to fight somebody. That's a bad conflict, right?
Exactly.
How do I get there? Well,
you're right. You're right. And the last question I got, and I think is extremely important. What inspires you to help people? I think it's a good question, right?
That is
every day. Yeah.
What inspires me to help people? Well, I think once I found my authentic self and I touched base with that, I realized that I was always wanting to help people. Like it's my nature. It's something that has been reinforced through life because people come to me for help. I'm one of those people that when you sit down and you talk, like I can have a complete stranger tell me their entire life story. It's just like, it's one of those things that just kind of came naturally. And I think it was one of those jobs that the universe picked out. Just, I'm one of the individuals that the universe picked to reach back out and help people. But I think one of the biggest inspirations to turn around and start helping people was the depths of the darkness that I walked through myself, and I walked it alone. And I was able to come out on the other side and find the light. And part of my responsibility of making it out of that darkness is to carry the lantern and take that light back into that darkness in order to carry more out.
That's awesome, man.
Like that's part of my responsibility, and it's something that I want to do. It's something that I feel heavy in my soul to do. And I got to say, this has been the most fulfilling part of my journey thus far. And I've had a pretty colorful past. I was a highly decorated combat veteran, served 18 years and got retired. I'm a father of 2 wonderful children. And out of those few accomplishments, I still feel more fulfilled doing what I'm doing today.
Oh, so I'm going to put your phone number for people that way you can continue on your journey.
Yes, sir.
Continue to help people, because that's what this is all about. So if anybody needs help, there's those numbers there. 501 area code 628-6722, 501-628-6722. If you miss something here, you can always email me, and I can always reach out and give the information out. But this has been great. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
It's so funny to see that and that people have similar backgrounds of things, just different topics and stuff, but we all went through something to get us where we need to be. And it's been very helpful for me to bring all these questions that people had, and I appreciate you able to answer that as well. Okay.
Absolutely. So, and I'll do one more plug, is that if you text me at my number, you're more likely to get a quicker response.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So text the 501-628-6722, and you'll be more likely to get a quicker response.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with, if you don't mind, it'll take about 2 minutes to listen to this. These are the words, R2E words of the day. And I found this. I figured I'd want everybody to listen to it. Give me a second.
You think about your life. Thoughts are not just thoughts. They are bridges and doors and entryways and foundations. They magnetize and repel. They can build a house and tear it down. They can energize momentum or keep you idling within your own little world forever. Thoughts are investments, and they are decisions. The mind will generate an endless series of options, some inspiring and others terrifying. And so you must choose. You must choose what you will return to, what you will believe in, what you will place weight on, because thoughts create feeling, and feeling creates desire, and desire creates action, and action creates reward, and reward creates more desire. And before you know it, a thought became the torch that led you down the path that is your life. If you want to change your
there
life,
it is. So I wanted to put that in. I heard it, and especially with the segment, it was perfect to put as a plug-in. So those are the words of the day. Thank you so much for coming out. Hopefully we can do a couple more of these.
Absolutely.
A lot of people were excited you were coming on, and some people could relate to what's happening out there. But I appreciate it, and everybody, thank you for tuning in to Rise to Everything. Elevate your game. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.